my name is Leonard and welcome to Thought Process. This is a video series on the food that I make at home, and I'm going to walk through with you my workflow on how I cook on a regular basis. So recently for a weeknight dinner, I made a dish that I'm calling the fridge leftover paella. Now paella traditionally is a Spanish rice dish cooked on an open fire over a skillet, normally with some form of proteins like rabbits, snails, seafood, and normally it's served for a large group of people. Now for the record, my paella is not a traditional or original version of paella, and so if you get triggered or offended by out of the box ideas, now would be a good time to click away. Go ahead, I'm waiting. So there's a few major components to making a good paella at home, and I'm going to start off with the liquids that I use first. Now one major ingredient that you can't really run away from when making paella, in my opinion, is saffron, which is the filament within the saffron flower that is traditionally used as a spice or an herb. It's really expensive, but a little goes a long way. Now I'm using about 1 gram of saffron threads here, and I'm going to steep that in about half a cup of hot water to release some of its natural flavors and its color. Now the other liquid that I'm also going to be using is a stock. I'm going to use a really simple instant stock made out of dashi powder or Japanese fish stock, and also a little bit of chicken cubes. Now I'm using really little, so if you're really concerned from a health perspective, quite frankly, it's not really a big deal. I'm going to make about 1.5 cups of stock here, and you don't really need to go crazy on the stock. Generally speaking, for every cup of rice you want to use 2 cups of water, and you can always add more later on, so don't really worry. And if you run out of stock, you can just simply use water, and that works perfectly fine as well. Now the next part of the paella is the vegetable component. Now I'm going to be using leeks that I have around the fridge. Traditionally you'll be using white onions. I don't have white onions. The point here, regardless, is to chop them up really finely, and you want them to sweat down and release some really nice sweetness to the overall dish. So I got some pumpkin lying around as well, and I'm going to just chop that up into small little cubes. Traditionally you would not see pumpkin in paella, but given the fact that it works really well with risotto, I thought, hey, probably add some nice sweetness to the paella as well. Now conventionally, paella also incorporates a tomato component. You could use tomato paste. I had some tomatoes lying around, and I just added that into a small blender with some frozen garlic, which is my preferred way of storing garlic at the moment. And I'm going to just blend that up into a paste. Now the last vegetable that I'm going to be using is some baby daikon or daikon sprouts, which I happen to have on hand. You don't have to use this, but I'm going to use it as a garnish to serve at the end of the dish. It adds a really nice peppery note, which I think complements the dish really well. Now traditionally paella would also use some form of bell peppers. I didn't have them lying around, so I didn't use them. The point I'm trying to make here is that if they add sweetness and complexity to the dish, by all means just go ahead. Now before I wash the blender that I use for the tomatoes and garlic, I'm going to throw in my saffron steeped tea inside there and blend it up real smooth. Saffron's expensive, and so I want to make sure I get every single bang for my buck. Now you can't make paella without rice, and traditionally you will use a paella rice, which is generally a short to medium grain style rice. I believe the go-to is kalaspara, but I've seen people use risotto rice as well. Now the problem for someone like me who stays in Malaysia is the fact that risotto rice or paella rice are expensive, and for a weeknight dinner, I don't think I want to just splurge just like that. But one good alternative is sushi rice, which is also a short grain rice and exudes the same amount of starch that we need to make paella. As you can see, you can't really tell them apart, and quite frankly, I've used it for risottos and I've used it for dishes just like this, and they all work out pretty fine. So I'm going to be measuring out about 150 grams of rice for 2 general servings for dinner, and I'm going to set that aside for the cook later. Now the other important component for paella is the spices or herbs, and I already mentioned saffron earlier at the start of the video, but you would also find paprika in, well, most paella recipes. Now I don't have paprika lying around, but what I do have is some dried chilies and also some Kashmiri chili powder. Again, not traditional, don't come at me, but to be honest, they smell quite similar, so I'm going to use them instead. I'm also going to be adding some garlic and onion powder, and follow that with some thyme leaves, some dried thyme leaves. You can use rosemary as well. Now I've tried both fresh thyme, fresh rosemary versus dried thyme and dried rosemary. In my opinion, the dried ones work much better as well. Now I've also got a lime for garnish later. You traditionally would use lemon, but guess what? I don't have lemon, so meh. Now, last but not least, the proteins. And traditionally, you would use snails or rabbits, but I have neither of those things. But one good contender is chicken, which I am using. So I'm going to use about a leg of chicken, one thigh and one drumstick, and I'm going to add on to that some IQF or individually quick frozen prawns, which I love because I can just pluck them out as I need, as much as I need, straight from the freezer. And I'm also going to be adding some beans to them, which is something quite traditional, although I am using edamame or soybeans, which obviously isn't traditional. But the point is, they add good protein and they get good texture and fiber as well. So here's to the actual cooking of the paella. And I'm going to start off with an 8-inch non-stick skillet. You can use a paella pan, but that's basically a glorified skillet if you ask me for the home cook. But hey, you do you. I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil into the pan, and I'm going to put that on medium-low heat. And I'm going to start off with my chicken pieces, and I want to brown them to get some really nice meaty flavors developed. So about 4 to 5 minutes per side, flip and repeat, and get that out of the pan once it's well browned. Now once my chicken is out, the pumpkin goes in first because they're much bigger and harder, followed by the leeks or onions. And I want to sweat them down until I can really smell the sweetness of the leeks or onions coming through. I'm going to make a little well in the middle, and I'm going to add my rice, and I want to toast the rice to get some really nice nuttiness throughout the entire dish. Another well in the middle, and in goes my tomato garlic paste. I'm going to cook that down until all the liquid starts to evaporate. Now at this point, the sugars from the vegetables are going to start forming a fond or stickiness or brown bits at the bottom of the pan, so it's really time to get ready to deglaze. Now you can use your saffron liquid, but you could also use alcohol like white wine. Heck, I've even tried 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar and it also works well. Now I don't have white wine around, but I'm going to be using some whiskey cause, why not? About 3 tablespoons goes in, flambe with a torch to get off the excess alcohol and let that cook down. Follow that up with the saffron liquid, the chicken pieces, and crap, I forgot my spices, which you should add with your veggies early on, but that's alright, just mix it in and let it cook away. Now here on out, just add stock as you need, taste and adjust accordingly. If you need more water, just use water, you don't have to purposely make stock. I'm also going to take the liberty to salt the dish here at this point. Now when this cooks, you don't want to be stirring it around like a risotto. You kind of want to just lay it flat and let it bubble away. A hallmark of paella is the sokarat or the bottom crust that's formed, and many people would tell you that that's the best part of paella. So when you add your liquids, just give it a little gentle wiggle here and there and just let it cook away. Now at the point where it's almost done, I'm going to add in my prawns and finish it off with a blowtorch just for some extra char flavor. Honestly, it's not necessary. Frankly, a lid would have just worked as well. I'm going to throw in my edamame and my daikon sprouts, and I'm going to finish it with the lime juice, and that is it. A simple weeknight dinner prep and done within 30 minutes. Could be much faster if you didn't have to film the whole dang thing. Now the first thing you taste out of this paella is that strong aromatic fragrance from the saffron, followed by the really nice meaty sweetness that comes from the vegetables, the meat, and in my opinion the dashi works really well here. So that is my weeknight fridge leftover paella. Now obviously this video isn't the most authentic or original paella recipe, and that's not the point of the video. The point of the video is the fact that you can use leftover pantry items, leftover ingredients, and make a dish that tastes really dang good. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, bye!